Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/ask Reddit by Planet Reddit. What's the most horrifying how do you not know how to do this moment you've experienced with another person whilst adulting? Every few weeks I catch my roommate trying to put his metal tea strainer in the microwave. This is in spite of the fact that our first week living in this apartment, he destroyed the microwave and had to pay for a new one because he put a metal tea strainer in the microwave. You could have left it at him making tea in the microwave. P.S. This blew up. I am proud that my first silver is on a comment about respecting British culture. As an English person, this. Hell, as an American, this. I have many great stories about my former college roommate. Two of my favorites are, she wanted to make pasta. She put a pot on the stove and poured the noodles in. No water in the pot. Turned on the stove. After a while she asked me how come these aren't getting soft like when my mom makes them. She made brownies from a box. The box instructions say grease the bottom of an 8x8 pan before pouring in the brownie batter. You bet you're behind this. BCH picked up the 8x8 pan, flipped it over, greased the bottom of it, and then flipped it back over and poured in the brownie batter. Loved those books. Dress the turkey and draw the drapes. Edit. OMG. My first award ever. Thank you anonymous gifter. Red heart, red heart, red heart. The draw the drapes is one that has stuck with me for years. She did her best. My wife's entire family not grasping that you need to put water in a steam iron. That is amazing. The fact that it is an inherited trait makes it even more glorious. Came up with a game idea. Inherited Stupidity, the game where you attempt to survive through multiple generations whilst piling more and more misinformation stat cards on each subsequent generation of your player's family. The player to have their family tree go on the longest before being evolutionarily cut from existence wins. Edit. Thank you all for the support and input on this idea. It went from a throwaway comment to now I really want to make some version of this game because of all the positivity here. You all really picked me up today. Isn't this just Planet Earth, the game? My best friend was sleeping with a new guy. She said she wasn't sure of his sexual history but she was on the pill to prevent STDs. I was like edit. Okay, my inbox is blowing up. She's a smart girl. From a very traditional Chinese family, they never discussed sex or anything, and if I recall she actually didn't attend health class with us due to her parents opting out. I taught her everything she knows. I even had to teach her about lube and blowjobs. So hey, she's happily married now and no, she doesn't have crazy STDs. Meanwhile, when my daughter took sex ed in Texas, they told her that if she had sex with some guy and then he went and had sex with 2 other girls later and those girls went and had sex with 2 other guys later, that it was as if my daughter had had sex with all of them. So she was certain to get an STD. Obviously, that's just basic time travel. Are you saying this is news to you or? Someone wasn't paying attention in interdimensional time traveling sex ed. My friend in college once lamented, "Ugh, I have to pee and I just put a tampon in like 5 minutes ago. I hate having to pull them out dry. Also it's such a waste." Her mother taught her that there is only one hole down there and peeing with a tampon in is not possible. It will up your bladder. Took a lot of me showing articles and diagrams and answering questions to convince her there are, indeed, 2 holes. She peed while the tampon was still in and called for her mother in utter shock to share the good news. Oh dear god. To be fair, if I have to go number 2 I sometimes just take out the tampon. I usually just shove the string up my vajayjay and out of the way, but I'm sometimes still worried the string will get dirty. To each their own, but I am appalled she didn't know there is a separate pee hole. A new tampon every time you pee would be so unnecessary. I had a roommate at university whose cooking method was put baked beans in a Tupperware, seal the lid, turn on microwave. When lid pops and explodes beans everywhere they're cooked. Edit. Well, this kinda blew up way more than I expected. So in light of that, I'll share another story of his cooking methods. One time I came home to find the oven on and smoking a bit. Opened the door to find what was an entire lasagna bubbling on the bottom of the oven. He bought himself a frozen lasagna. Step 1, remove outer packaging. Step 2, place on middle tray of preheated oven. He literally thought that outer packaging was anything outside of the lasagna. So he tore away that shell that the lasagna cooks in and placed it straight on the rack. So as it defrosted it just fell through the rack and all over the oven. And you can guarantee he'd refuse to clean the microwave too. You kidding? How else would he eat them? I also enjoy the top of the microwave beans. 19-year dude. How do you cook a fried egg? Gave him instructions and left him to it. Came back a while later to ask how it went. Fine in the end, but it took a few attempts because the yolk kept breaking. What do you mean kept breaking? Well, I kept throwing them away because I thought breaking the yolk made it poisonous. Once again, he was 19 years old. Reminds me of when I was dating a 19-year dude. I explained that eating raw nuts is healthy, so he bought a bag of peanuts. He complained 2 days later that he was going to stop eating them because they upset his stomach, so I got a free bag of peanuts. Yay. He was stunned when he saw me shelling them and eating the nut, because he was eating them shell and all, for 2 days. Surprisingly did not end well, but I got a lot of terrible sex and dumber stories out of it. Surprisingly did not end well, but I got a lot of terrible sex and dumber stories out of it. Well, don't hold out on us. It's like he's never even eaten a fried egg. Roommate in college was 22. Had lived in an apartment for 3 years prior to moving in together. Legitimately did not know how to remove a trash bag from a trash can. We had the simplest trash can possible. Had never turned on an oven before. And, my favorite, complained one day that their bathroom was always sopping wet every time they showered. Finally realized that they never put up a shower curtain. They learned quickly and became a pretty good cook by the time I moved out. But man, their parents really never prepared them for living alone. Like, I know it's technically the parents' fault in these instances, but at a certain age surely the ability to Google literally anything places the blame squarely on the individual's shoulders. For sure, age 22 is a little too old not to have Googled it themselves, but since they never did anything themselves, and having anxiety, they lacked so much confidence in their competence that it was crippling them. They Googled some things while I lived with them, did everything correctly, but would ask me 2-4 times if I thought they did it right, even with the evidence right in front of their face. Anxiety plus complete inexperience really hurt them, even with all the resources they needed at their disposal. Like, these people I sympathize with massively. If you're at least trying, that's fine. Like, I wasn't mad at this guy, I was just so bemused that his brain looked at this bathroom afterwards and thought, yeah, a job well done. Worked at an on-campus store that sold a lot of essentials for students living at dorms. I had one girl ask me what laundry detergent was because she never did laundry. She asked if I could help her do her laundry, but I declined as I couldn't leave the register, which of course she was mad about. Sorry, I have to actually do my job, lady. In a weird way I am jealous of those people. I've done crap like that since I was physically able to, and I can honestly say they haven't missed much. I appreciate how, hopefully, it's shaped me into a better person, but come on, it's boring AF. I can understand. I was definitely envious of them because it was obvious they came from money, whereas I was working 2 part-time jobs while going to college. But sadly they were also the type of girls who only went to college because everyone else did, and more than likely would just try and find someone who'd marry them only to be further pampered. I recall having a lab partner who was in a sorority who didn't know how to do laundry or cook. They paid people to do that for them. I asked her if she was interested in at least learning how to do it for the future. She replied back saying, that's silly. I'm going to marry someone with money where I'd just hire someone to do it for me. I had no response to that since I clearly could not relate. I worked my butt off at my crappy grocery store jobs, but I still didn't really know how to do laundry. My mom always wanted it all done a certain way, so she did it herself. I just kind of trial and error picked up how to do laundry when I was finally on my own. I never cook much either because my parents did it, and whenever I tried tease me about it. So I trial and error at that. 2. I learned about better cooking from my BF only about 7 years ago, but I still don't have cooking intuition and need to follow directions. Just saying that you can be clueless about something and still be the working type. More of a how do you not know to not do this. First year at uni. A girl in my halls is microwaving some food and left it in the metal foil container. It took 3 fire engines to put out the fire, and we had to have a new kitchen installed. Not to mention, This was at like 3 AM and I had an exam the next day. I was not impressed. Edit. Okay, apparently not knowing microwave safety is pretty common. So do people not study basic physics anymore? My faith in humanity waned daily. I was not impressed is the thing that identified this to me as a fellow British person post. I can literally hear you saying it, inflections and everything. Well shit, my secret identity has been uncovered. I mean, I love hand egg and hate that soccer. Coffee is the best and tea is the worst. They'll never suspect me now. Strokes cat maniacally. Edit. Yes, hand egg is American football. My ex and I were cooking together and one of the pans got too hot, and we had a minor grease fire. She grabbed a bag of flour. As tempted as I was to slap it out of her hands, I didn't want to aerate a bunch of flour next to a grease fire. So I grabbed it with both hands and forced it, and her, because she wouldn't let go, over to the countertop, and then dropped the lid on the pan. I asked her what her logic was, and she said, well, you're supposed to put baking soda on a grease fire and not water, right? Yes. Why did you try to use flour? What's the difference? They're both white powder. Edit. Scribble.com link. Also wow, this blew up. Jesus, that's even worse than water. She almost made a bomb. Yup, those are the two most flammable things you'll find in a typical kitchen. Damn. That would basically have turned into a sort of homemade fuel air bomb. Hey, I had no idea. Thanks for that. I knew about the water, but not the flour. Who knows? You might have saved me from a disaster in the future. Join our community Discord, link in description. I had a friend who I noticed took Mucinex a lot. I've used it occasionally, when I've been congested, but it seemed abnormal how often I saw him taking it. I finally asked him why he was taking it one time, because he didn't seem sick at all, and he looked puzzled and said, well, I think I'm getting sick. I pressed further and he said because it's an expectorant. It turns out he thought you take an expectorant when you are expecting to get sick. That's actually pronounced analgesic, not analgesic, sir. The pills go in your mouth. This is going to sound weird, but manage a budget, or just in general being money smart. One of my old roommates was really bright academically, but he was terrible with money. Each semester he would start off with a pile of cash from his parents and roughly blow through it after about 2 months. I first noticed it with his dining dollars on campus. Every day it seemed like he would buy the most expensive sushi option on campus every day. We're talking maybe $18, which isn't terrible if it's once in a while. But this was every day. It's also college dining hall sushi, so the quality was also just okay without even considering the money spent. Of course around midterms when his dining dollars would run out and he'd sort of panic and whine that he couldn't afford anything. But what was so strange is that when he would start to low, he'd sort of laugh about not knowing any way we could avoid going broke while continuing to buy the most expensive option. But he'd also get really defensive when people wanted to talk to him about this. Eventually when he moved off campus it was the same thing. For the first 2 months he'd feast. He'd get delivery constantly, ordering just way too much food. And of course he'd never share it. But then once he'd nearly run out of cash, he'd buy like an emergency 50-pack of hot dogs and only eat that for the rest of the semester, while telling everyone else that they were lucky they had money to spend, and how not everyone had it so easy when it comes to money. He'd never directly say it, but there were always a lot of implied insults. Do you know if he had ever had a job? He had never had a job at that point, though after graduating he eventually got one. Sounds unbearable. I have friends who sell weed and think they're rich. It's exhausting to deal with. My girlfriend, now wife, put a pan of oil on too high of heat and it hit the flash point and caught fire. She freaked out and went to get a large thing of water and I stopped her and tossed the pan lid on top until the flames went out. Then she asked me why I stopped her. I was very thankful that I was there the first time she had a grease fire. Not only could she have hurt herself, but it was in a college dorm and the whole friggin' place could have gone up. I had a grease fire not long ago. I was cooking away and the pan went alight. I was holding the pan handle. I didn't know where the lid was. I casually called in my wife. No response. Called again. She replied she was just finishing something. I was still holding a pan of fire before casually walking past her through the front door and placed it on the drive. In my head it felt like minutes had passed, but it was probably only a few seconds, and my wife mocks me for how calm I was carrying a pan of fire casually through the house. I imagined Frozen's voice. Honey, where's the lid to this pan? Why do you need to know? In the late 90s, had a co-worker who complained about her PC being slow. Took a look and the hard drive was full. Largest folder was her recycle bin. She had never ever emptied it in years of use. I emptied recycle, cleared temp folder, and PC started working fine. She was happy until her big Excel tracking sheet was gone. Oh no, she did not know where it was on File Explorer. So I asked her to show me how she opened it. She goes to the little storage container on her desktop, named recycle bin, and it was normally at the top. But now it's gone. No backup. Oops, she cried to management that I destroyed her computer. Manager laughed when I told her the truth. Edit. If you've never seen what Windows 95 looks like, net.com link. That's row. How was she using Excel but didn't know what the recycle bin was? Excel isn't exactly basic knowledge. You'd be amazed. A lot of older people, at least where I live, took dedicated spreadsheet word processing courses when the programs first started to hit the scene in schools, etc. Great for doing their books, but they're still absolutely clueless on anything outside of the program. The first thing we learned way back in middle school was how to convert ranges to tables in Excel. Didn't think much about it until I started working in an office surrounded by engineers and not a single person knew about it. People who have used Excel every day for 30 years, and I become the office Excel guru in 2 weeks. Not sure if this counts, but when I took a food safe course, someone asked if they could wash a turkey with dish soap. He failed the course. But you can wash a turkey with dish soap. Just be careful not to get it in their eyes because it really stings. One of roommates in college would go through plastic spatulas like crazy. She'd melt them and wouldn't say anything about it. She'd only tell me when I'd go to use it and wonder why it was messed up. She'd always say it was due to the spatula being made of cheap plastic. No, I finally caught her one day. She'd be cooking something and would walk away leaving the plastic spatula in the pan while IT was studying. I learned on. Edit. Fixed some spelling. Also, I really did not expect this to blow up. Funny that so many people can relate. For those asking, yes, I know there are heat resistant, wooden, and metal spatulas. Remember, this was in college though. So I went to Walmart and just bought the cheapest non-stick pan and utensil sets I could find. Honestly, I liked them well enough and they fit my purposes. I never melted a spatula because I don't leave my utensils sitting in a hot pan. I also wouldn't allow my roommate to buy a metal spatula since that would mess up the Teflon. I have stopped myself from doing that many a time because their parents used to leave metal spatulas in the pan, and it never occurred to them that maybe, just maybe, plastic is a little easier to melt than metal. Friend from college tried making burrito bowls for dinner and complained that some of the onions were weirdly chewy. She didn't know onions need to be peeled. She asked me if not greasing the pan when making banana bread was okay, because she didn't have anything to grease it with. She had canola oil, olive oil, and butter. She thought you could only use Pam, which I informed her was just sprayable oil. She won't cook raw meat because it's gross and she doesn't know how to tell if it's cooked well enough to not get sick. I taught her how to make tea, how to mop, how to do laundry, how to make scrambled eggs. She has the type of mom that does all the cooking and cleaning. But I don't understand why she wouldn't have tried to pass that to her daughter. She has the type of mom that does all the cooking and cleaning. But I don't understand why she wouldn't have tried to pass that to her daughter. That's exactly why. Mom always did everything and never realized her little baby would need life skills someday. Infantilizing. That or mom never wanted to relinquish control of any household tasks because kids tend to be bad at stuff while they're learning. This explains everything. Oh my god. I think the bathroom cleaning thing would be a deal breaker for me. Ruining mashed potatoes is just a crime. But he would have been gone before that. When my friend bought a house a month into home ownership, she asked me, very pissed off, when the city was coming to cut her lawn because it's starting to look like weeds. It was awkward when I had to explain that she needs to cut her own lawn or hire someone. If she waited long enough, the city may have come and cut it for her. Also a citation and a bill. My ex-best friend had told me that she had needed to buy another new vacuum cleaner, the third that month. I asked her what was wrong with it and she said it's not picking things up anymore. So I asked if she had dumped out the container. She didn't know that was a thing. You don't have the new Dyson wormhole model? I guess we were still in high school, but we were 18. Me and my buddy Ferris were just getting into going to the gym. We went with Ferris's friend Tom. After working out, in the changing room during some small talk, I saw Tom putting on a shirt. Tom put the shirt over his head, but didn't put his arms through the sleeves. He managed to pull the shirt over his torso so that it was adequately on before wiggling all about and bending his arms in odd ways to get them into the sleeves. I didn't take much notice to it the first few times, but after a few months it was apparent he did this every single time. Tom didn't know how to put on a shirt, at least efficiently. Eventually we asked Tom why he put his shirt on like that, and he said something along the lines of, "Wait, what? Don't I do it the same way you guys do?" I guess he had never really thought about it before then. Edit. Grammar. I know a lot of guys that do this. I think it's more of a societal split than you realize. There is also a gender split in taking off a shirt. 2. Guys pull ups from the shoulder, girls inverted from the waist. I never noticed it until I started letting people try on my chainmail shirt. It weighs 15 pounds and girls, like myself, don't have any trouble getting it off by themselves. I've had to help every guy out of it though. Sounds to me like you have never had to deal with a small gasoline engine before, which is okay, since they seem to be on the way out nowadays. The little button you press to make starting easier is called a priming bulb, and it basically pumps gas into the system so it's ready to go. You are lucky you didn't have to mess with the choke, though who knows, you might have, which would explain why it kept dying. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.